get into our specific questions. If I hadn't done that, it wouldn't have made the other questions that are coming up as clear as they should be. All right, go ahead.
Diagnosis. How did you get diagnosed?
Well, a doctor has to suspect it, first of all. And a neurologist should be aware of it. And a liver specialist should be aware of it. So ideally, when you have some kind of weird symptom that I've talked about, your family practitioner will send you to a neurologist, and the neurologist should be able to diagnose it. If it's more liver, if you get jaundice, you know, if your body turns yellow and you just feel bad, hopefully your doctor will order some liver tests. And I could get into that, but that's probably above. There are tests when you get stuck with a needle. There's multiple tests that get done, and one of them is liver function. And so your family practitioner should do that, and when he sees something's wrong with the liver, he or she, excuse me, family practitioner can be a woman. So they will send you to the liver specialist, and the liver specialist should be, should be cognizant and aware that there's a disease called Wilson's disease. Now, hopefully, he will, and so probably he'll do some more liver tests, and they'll all be abnormal, unfortunately. And hopefully, when a liver specialist can't diagnose something via the blood test, and a lot of liver diseases can be diagnosed with blood tests, like for instance hepatitis B or hepatitis C or hepatitis non-A, non-B. You can get all the diagnosis just by a blood test. But it's not completely diagnosable by blood test. Now I'll get into exactly how it's diagnosed. I don't know if that's coming up later or not, but I'm sure it will be. But so ideally, you're going to be sent to a neurologist if you have neurological abnormalities, or you're going to be sent to the liver specialist. And in my case, it was a neurologist. So are there any more questions about how to be?
I thought it was interesting how you had this copper buildup in your eyes.
Oh,
right. And you went to the obstetrician. Ophthalmologist, excuse me.
Let's see. Yeah, okay, I've talked about what is Wilson's. In my case, I told you about how did it make its appearance was mostly the tremor and the intention tremor. And then this, I saw 3 neurologists. They were supposed to, one of them was, 2 of them were supposed to be, experts. One was at Baylor College of Medicine, and one was where I went to medical school, when I was in medical school, Texas Tech. It just doesn't happen enough, so the neurologists just don't keep it in their mind. They might see one case in their career.
And this was before the internet?
No, this is before the internet. So the tremor was how it made its appearance, and it progressed. So we've talked about how does it make its appearance. It's either the liver or neurologic. In my case, we want to get to my case about how it was kind of accidentally diagnosed. And it's pretty crazy. I can't really, it's pretty amazing in my case. I was doing bad in medical school in my 2nd year, and I finally flunked a course. The only course in my life I ever flunked was ophthalmology. And don't ask, that was in the end of our 2nd year. Don't ask me why they put ophthalmology. They put dermatology in there. They put ear, nose, and throat in there. They thought that was going to help us do the physical exams that were going to come in our 3rd year. Looking at the head and face.
And let me make something clear. Kirk is one of these genius types. And I'm not kidding. And it's hard for a guy to flunk a class as when you're a genius, you know.
I would say that.
But to me, it's nothing. You know, it's routine. But to you,
Yeah, I don't understand. I still don't understand how that could happen. I mean, multiple choice tests, multiple guess tests, actually. I studied for it. But anyway, so I was seeing a psychotherapist, you know, and a psychotherapist thought it was, you know, from a dysfunctional family. Oh, and I hadn't said I thought it was God punishing me, because there was no other reason why this was happening. It's like, that's the only explanation, you know, and I was Baptist, and I thought any poor, bad behavior like those inappropriate behaviors, I thought God was punishing me. How else? You saw the doctors, no one had an explanation. The therapist thought it was my just poor family, like he had my family come out for an interview or a therapy session, and he got me to and my dad, we said we're going to hug each other and say I love you. And that, you know, that's a good idea anyway. And my dad and I might have done that, you know, the next 3 or 4 visits we had with each other. But but anyway, I failed this ophthalmology class, and that therapist said, why don't you go see the ophthalmology department and talk to them about how to pass the ophthalmology. I was going to have to take it next year. I didn't have to take every single class. I just going to have to take ophthalmology next year. So I'd be twiddling my thumbs for almost a whole year. I chose to take some of the courses, again, just to get more knowledgeable about them. But, okay, so the ophthalmology department didn't want to speak to me. They knew I had some problems. The whole medical school knew I had something was going on. They didn't diagnose it, but they just thought, hey, this guy is a weirdo, or he's under the stress of medical school. I guess also could explain it. But so this therapist said, well, why don't you make an appointment to see an ophthalmologist? Therefore, you're talking face-to-face to an ophthalmologist. Maybe you get the chairman of the ophthalmology department to examine you. But no, that wasn't going to happen. I was going to have to see a resident ophthalmologist. And, you know, so I went over there and doing a slit lamp exam. Hope some of you know what that is. They put a little eye, it's just completely parallel, you know, one, and they look through the cornea. And I think, I think they're looking for cataracts when they do that. And also, I guess, inside the pupil. But anyway, in my case, this ophthalmologist said, do you know you have Kayser-Fleischer rings? And I'm saying, I remember hearing that name. And it was copper in the irises, just right around the irises. That's another place the copper builds up. And don't ask me why that happens.
I guess your eyes need copper.
But that's almost diagnostic of this disease I have. And so he calls my neurologist, and the neurologist says, the neurologist didn't want to acknowledge that I had something, you know, he should have diagnosed. You know, he was embarrassed and ashamed, I'm sure. But he sent me immediately to the liver specialist. And I guess they needed to look at my liver, too. But, you know, that was pretty, you know, pretty, how would you describe that?
That was a revelation.
Yeah, it's like God was helping me. God, thank you.
So you finally, after years of not knowing what was going on, the tremors and the passing out, you finally got it diagnosed.
Crazy behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that's how it was diagnosed in me. Pretty interesting.
And you were able to get your degree, get treated, get your degree.
Most people started giving me a little leeway when that happened. Not everyone. About half the people started being supportive, and half of them thought I should just resign from medical school and just go home. And I'm serious about that. They said he won't be able to finish what he started. Being a doctor is too demanding and stressful. And they had a point. But I had to give it a try.
Otherwise you wouldn't know. You'd never know.
And one other thing is, how would I have lived if I didn't finish medical school? Well, I will say it's fairly easy for someone with Wilson's disease to get Social Security and Medicare. If you got that name of that disease, whether you have really bad symptoms or not, you're probably going to get it, because they know something's wrong with your liver and your brain, and they know you need Medicare. So I probably could have survived with Social Security and Medicare. But anyway, let's go on. Some of the people thought I should go on and try it if I could. Yeah, so
Wait a second.
so I go on to my third year medical school, and
Okay.
and internal medicine, it's kind of stupid system, but they want the third year resident to do a physical exam on the patients that have been assigned to them. And then, I wasn't a resident then, I was just a third year medical student. The first year resident then comes in after the third year medical student does a physical exam. And then the whole team, the third year medical student and the first year resident and the second year resident and the third year resident, not always like this, but most of the time like this, and then the senior staff. So this patient probably gets about 3 physical exams in the same morning. And they want each of us to do it on our own. And so the third year medical student has to wake the patient up at 4:30 a.m. to do a physical exam. That's one reason why you get woken up so early at the hospitals. So don't go to a teaching hospital. So I had to wake, this one older lady, and I think her daughter was there in the room, and I had to do a physical exam. And I can't remember exactly what I did or what I said, but the whole team comes by and opens the room, and so we all go in there, and this patient says, "I don't want him to be in my room." And I'm saying, well, what did I do? What did I say? But they look at me, and so I immediately leave. Don't ask me what I did. I had home health care come by my house, not that long ago, and I said something, and so they refused to come to my house anymore.
Did you gripe about something?
I must have griped about something.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. So be careful. If you perturb somebody, like some system, you might not get able to use that system. Like I like to take Amtrak, and if I perturb an employee, they might put my name on the list and I might not be able to take Amtrak
Right,
anymore.
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, you got to be nice to people. What happened was he went on a train trip and they were supposed to have lunch at a certain time and they didn't. Lunch got delayed somehow. Well, he wants to have a full stomach, because it helps him stay balanced, and you said something. You said a bad word. And so
About three of them looked at me and they were just had this frown on their face. We don't have to take that. And so I was scared.
oh, well, yeah.
But anyway, getting back to some people thought I could continue, and some people thought I should just quit right away. But where are we? What's the next question?
How has let's see, how is WD treated today? How was it treated in times past, decades ago?
Well, let me just say one thing before. The way it's diagnosed is someone has to suspect it. A doctor has to suspect it. And once it's suspected, they usually will do a 24-hour urine collection. And that's fairly straightforward. People do 24-hour urine collections. And it will be very high in copper. It will be a lot higher than it should be. 10 times the amount that normal. And so that's about the only thing that will cause is Wilson's disease. And then the rings in the eye are another pathognomonic sign for Wilson's disease. Do you know what pathognomonic means? It
No.
means it's only occurs in this, and it means that. That's what pathognomonic means.
Oh,
So
okay. Thank you.
so if you got a 24-hour urine collection that's probably, I'd say, 1,500 milligrams per cc copper, that's Wilson's disease.
Okay.
And the rings are pathognomonic, and a liver biopsy stained for copper is those three things together is no other possibility than Wilson. And technically that's what you got to do. You have to have 2 positives of those 3. That means Wilson's disease. Now some people have misinformed. They think ceruloplasm, and that's a protein that the liver makes. And that can be low. It's usually low in Wilson's disease. Sometimes it's normal. So you can't use that. But a lot of people, they're trying to diagnose their own family members. And, there's something wrong with one of their children. And so they look through the medical books and they say, oh, this looks like my child. And so they get some of the tests done, and ceruloplasm, don't ask me exactly what that does. I used to know, but it's really not involved in Wilson's disease, although people think it is. And so they come in, they get that test done somewhere, and they say, my child has Wilson's disease. But that's not the case. Okay. So in my case, it was the rings and the urine. They didn't have to do a liver biopsy. But if it's your liver that's bothering, that's why you went to the liver specialist and they do a liver biopsy, that's what will say Wilson's disease, along with the urine copper. If it's mostly neurologic, it'll be the Kayser-Fleischer rings. Okay.
That's all right. Hey, I'm learning a lot here. Now, you go to these Wilson's disease conferences. What's your opinion of them? You meet lots of friends there?
I make a couple of friends there. I also try to get laid there.
Oh.
Excuse me.
That's inappropriate behavior.
No, like this last one was in Houston, and I met a lady, very good looking, but she was married and had kids, and she's writing a book, and so we got in touch with one another on the phone and Skype. But I met her face to face.
Rhonda
And-
Rowland.
And so we've had a good relationship ever since. Now we know one another.
Good.
And I see the doctors that I've known over the years that I've seen in treatment.
Let me make
That's
a plug
really-
here. Let me make a shameless plug. Rhonda Rowland is writing a book at the moment called, and is tentatively titled the History or the Story of Wilson's Disease. So it should be coming out in the next year, and Kirk might have his own chapter.
Oh.
You know, she's been doing a lot of interviews with you, so and you're an interesting subject, you know. So anyway, if you see that coming out, make your purchase. It should probably be on Amazon. Okay, go ahead.
All right. And so I see the doctors that I've seen over the years, and that's always a fun visit, just to be able to talk to them. And they're really interested in me and what's happening. They're kind of, I think we'll get into some questions here that will bring out what I want to talk about. So the conferences, one conference I went to, it was in Detroit, and there was probably 25 or 30 of these victims that were bent over like that.
Right.
And so I don't think they were getting a whole lot out of the conference, unfortunately.
Maybe
but,
they were listening, you know.
yeah, it surprised me. I didn't know that people got quite that severe. But okay, keep going.
Well, tell us about your life today. You're 61 years old. What do you do as far as recreation or sports or outings? What do you enjoy life? And what can you participate in?
Well, that's too many. I can't remember all.
Okay,
those
well I'll jar your memory.
Well, we haven't gotten into how I got the disability from my last job. I was never getting paid a whole lot as a doctor because everyone knew they were giving me a chance, and so they never paid me over the $100,000 salaries. But my disability, I got 60% of what I was making. And then Social Security also kicked in. But probably Medicare is probably the greatest benefit of all, because believe me, this disease can cause a lot of problems. But
Financial problems.
yeah, but I had enough money to live comfortably and to save. Except when I was younger, I never saved much, as you remember. I got some old Mercedeses, and I got one station wagon. It was Mercedes.
Motorcycles. Don't forget the
Motorcycles.
Boats.
Oh, I bought a sailboat.
Houses.
50 acres of land.
Yeah.
But
Scorched earth.
what?
Scorched earth with.
Oh, I didn't do a whole lot of traveling, but I had 3 dogs at one time, as well as a neighbor's dog. So 4 dogs came over.
Yeah, that's a lot to feed.
And vet bills.
Yeah.
But I had enough to live on. So I had, this is another funny, I don't know if I should talk about this or not.
Okay, well, what is it?
But this is a crazy, and where I decided to live was Nacogdoches, Texas, because I liked East Texas. I love the pine trees, especially that smell out there. The smell of pine tree, man, it's great. But I won't get into all the details of living out there. people, I don't know if I have this coming up, but people will say, you know, I'm eccentric. And I don't think I'm eccentric, but
You think you're normal.
I don't think I'm normal.
I think I'm normal somewhat.
Yeah, Richard's a little eccentric.
Thanks.
Anyone that does their own thing in life, I think, is considered eccentric. But in my case, I'll go on here, back into what's going on, is over the years just doing what I've done, I've taken, seeing therapists, I've taken the, what do they call them, the psychobehavioral exams, where it's like a 3-day exam. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the Rorschach. That's about it.
Well, the Rorschach is in that,
Okay.
basically. And just some tests like, if I had a choice, would I prefer to do this or would I prefer to do that? And they also measure your intelligence, not the whole way of doing it, but part of the way of doing it. Because some people with diseases, you know, they lose their intelligence. And I probably have lost some of mine. But that's okay. As I've aged, we all start losing. Even O.J. Hendricks has lost some of his, he admits.
He's number one. Jay Hendricks was number one in our class.
Oh, Jay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.